Welcome to the Octopod. I'm Kyle Davis, head of the Office of the CTO. Join us as we dive into the latest technologies and trends shaping business. Whether you're a tech enthusiast, a business leader, or just looking to stay ahead in the digital age, this podcast is for you. Let's unlock opportunities with technology together. Let's jump in.
Welcome everyone to a special edition of my Hybrid Trends podcasts with our partners from Microsoft. We've been talking about this concept of Cloud Beyond IaaS and how we can drive cost optimization. We started with 4 great episodes introducing the core concept of cost optimization and our 3 main topics around hybrid cloud, app modernization, and data and AI. So today we're going to dive into them topics and start with the topic of hybrid cloud. And I'm really excited to be joined by Christophe from Microsoft and Jake from our Microsoft team. So guys, do you want to introduce yourselves to everyone?
Sure. Thank you, Rob. So hello, everyone. I'm Christophe Roux, and I lead the Azure StackHCI and Azure Hybrid business within Microsoft.
And I'm Jake Walsh, Senior Solution Architect in CDW's Microsoft practice.
Excellent. Thanks both. So really this one, I'm going to break this into 3 parts. First of all, we're going to talk about what is this adaptive cloud strategy for Microsoft, how's that evolving, and what are the sort of core capabilities of the platform so everyone knows what is possible. We're then going to really dive into some of the core use cases of that platform that customers should be considering. And finally, look really in a bit more detail at the edge use cases and some of them vertical outcomes that can be driven from this stack and from the platform. So that's what everyone should look forward to hearing. But Christophe, I guess, what is adaptive cloud? I mean, we've been hearing in the industry about hybrid cloud, about multi-cloud, about super cloud, meta cloud. Everyone seems to have their own word to put in front of the word cloud. Microsoft have chosen adaptive. What does this mean to the customers that are listening?
That's a good question, Rob. Basically, we realize that customers are indeed using different forms of cloud. And it's private, it's hybrid, it's multi, it's edge, it's IoT. And in most of the cases, they use different systems, different expertise, different life cycle to operate all those clouds. And this leads to a huge complexity for those customers. So Microsoft has decided and invested in a platform that makes that operation consistent. The idea is to bring the data from any of those clouds in a single platform. Data could be operational data, could be applications, could be simply the data that is extracted from the systems. And this allows the customer to operate those platforms much more efficiently.
That makes sense. And Jake, are you seeing that sort of hybrid approach in the conversations you're having with customers on a daily basis?
Yeah, it's a continual trend, to be honest. So customers don't want to buy disparate systems that do different business purposes or service different departments. They want that single pane of glass management. It in effect allows them to utilize one system across different locations, use cases, hardware, and all of the other different categories they operate across.
Yeah, and I guess that helps from an operational standpoint as well. It's not, having to these disparate teams, silos of teams of people, silos of skills and capabilities as well, because we all know that, resource and talent is hard to find these days. And if you've got to find, 3 different groups of people, it gets even harder. But I guess as a message, adaptive cloud makes sense, but we've had over time lots of different components that are made up of that. Obviously we've got the core Azure platforms that in the Microsoft facilities, etc., around the world, and then we've had this evolution, I guess, from Hyper-V into StackHCI, Windows Server, etc. So there's lots of heritage there, but what are we seeing as that evolution there then, and how do we really help customers understand the message from the sort of non-public cloud part of the Azure story?
So indeed, adaptive cloud is made of 4 pillars. The first pillar is the orchestration layer powered by AI, so that you can monitor all those assets from a central place, which is the Azure portal mainly. The second pillar of that adaptive cloud is the application pillar, where you can develop your application using your DevOps platform and deploy it anywhere. Like, for instance, if you have thousands of stores, how can you update your application easily once you have updated the code? The third pillar, of course, is about collecting data and injecting this data into data warehouse and AI. And finally, where you are going, Rob, is the infrastructure, the underlying infrastructure that is on the customer side, in the data center, and in the remote sites. This infrastructure is evolving. We need more capability to process data. We need real-time information. And for that, Microsoft has constantly evolved from Windows Server to different versions of Azure Stack, now Azure StackHCI. And we have released at Ignite the new family of product that is called Azure Local. So Azure Local, it's a way to bring Azure into your own premises, to deliver Azure services, to deliver VMs and containers, all that in a secure fashion, and also with a consistent approach, end-to-end, whether you are in your data center, you are in your production site, or you can be even far next to your machines or your systems. You could manage all that with Azure Local now.
Cool. So that gives us a really clear definition. And we've got Azure Public, which is what everyone's known for the last, however many years it is now, 10 plus years. And then now we've got Azure Local, which we can deploy in many different locations, but that consistent operating platform across there. And under the hood, that I guess is the SAC OS that we've been used to. So it's not like it's a brand new product. It's an evolution of many years of innovation in the Microsoft portfolio.
Absolutely. I think we talk about 10 years of evolutions from Windows Server to Azure Stack Hub, Azure StackHCI, Azure Stack Edge, all that powered by Azure Arc. So it's a mature product. It's a product that takes the learnings from Azure and from the Windows Server family. It has converged to Azure StackHCI because it's the best operating system we have to run services at the edge.
So I guess, Christophe, that really shows this doubling down of Microsoft's viewing that the world is hybrid and actually how can they activate Azure anywhere. So the message has been Azure as the destination. Now it really is Azure anywhere from that side of it. But if that was just VMs that we could run on that would still limit the scope. You talked a little bit about app dev and being able to push applications to the right thing. So what else are we bringing to this new Azure Local platform from a services capability that will ensure that it is really and truly Azure anywhere rather than just, we can run some VMs on-prem?
Yeah, absolutely. We want to bring what is required for the remote site transformation and the data center transformation. We talk about manufacturing 4.0, we talk about new retail. So what do they need? Those sites need compute power with VMs. They need modern apps with containers, microservices. They need data processing. They need AI, so we can bring IoT operations on top and AI framework, and all that secured through Defender, for instance, and monitored through Azure. So the idea that in one single platform, we have compute, data, application deployment, IoT, and all that in a consistent approach.
Sounds fantastic. And I think, VMs, Windows, Linux, containers, and then some of them native services from Azure as well, like say IoT, computer vision, AI, data, etc. Truly, this is Azure anywhere then as we look at the evolution of the product. And one of the other things that's probably worth thinking about is that StackHCI had this very programmatic release schedule, as it were, maybe, and actually maybe it took a while for new features to come onto the platform because it was, maybe 6 months or a year before your next update. Are we seeing a change there as well to drive that innovation faster? Because obviously, if it's going to be cloud-like, one of the big things about cloud is that you get access to new features as soon as they arrive. That's the whole point of cloud, isn't it? And if we're saying that Azure Local is like cloud, does that mean faster innovation on the platform as well?
So indeed, Azure Local is an Azure service, so it's always up to date as an Azure service. And for that, we release every quarter a new feature update that allows you to innovate faster, to keep up with the pace of the release of Azure as well. So it's very interesting for customers to not wait for another year to have those features coming, but maybe wait for 3 months or 6 months, depending on when that feature is scheduled in the release. But we understand that customers innovate faster and faster, and we support that rhythm.
No, that makes sense. And Jay, do you think that piece will make a big difference to customers as well about being able to get the value from that investment in the platform?
I think hugely so. Yeah, so for customers in particular that want to be part of that ecosystem but do have that kind of, hybrid approach where they do need workloads in different locations, this means that they're not doing that, they're not buying into a system that perhaps, to their own detriment. For example, we have to go with this solution, but we only update it on a specific cadence, for example. Actually, what this means is we can place that workload where we need it to be, knowing the platform is being updated, knowing the platform is supported, deriving all the same benefits that we would have previously got going, natively into Azure, for example. And also being underpinned by the Arc ecosystem, where we do have that centralized management, we do have that point of control. So yeah, that's a long way to say yes, very much so.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I guess one of the things we need to think about then is how do we get onto this platform? So obviously new applications that are built in the cloud can be pushed to the edge, containers, that's all great. But for them customers that haven't moved their workloads to public cloud yet, a lot of the times that's because they're VM based, because maybe they're not suitable for cloud operations one way or the other. We have tooling to move from pretty much any on-prem estate into public Azure. If Azure Local is going to be the same as public, does that mean that tooling will support migrations as well, so customers can move their workloads as easy as possible?
Yes, actually, we are releasing Azure Migrate to support the migration from VMware to Azure Local. We have already delivered Azure Migrate for migration from Hyper-V to Azure Local. So today, it's as simple to migrate from VMware to Azure than VMware to Azure Local. The idea is to remove all the blockers for that migration. We know that customers are very demanding on those migrations, so we support that demand and we help them accelerate this demand. So there's no blocker today moving from VMware to Azure Local.
Excellent. And obviously with the changes in limitations, both small and large, that means the use cases are expanded, the features are there. Sounds like a great hybrid cloud, or adaptive cloud, should I say, story that we can take to our customers now. So thank you both for your inputs. We'll look forward to part 2 and part 3, where we're going to really dive into the use cases and the value that customers can get from this new Azure Local platform. So thanks for listening, everyone. I've been Rob Sims, Chief Technologist for CDW.
I've been Jake Walsh, Senior Solution Architect at CDW's Microsoft practice.
And Christophe, Roux, Azure StackHCI and Azure Local Lead.
So thanks, everyone. See you next
Tuning
time.
into today's episode. Be sure to check out the back catalogue for more great insights. Don't forget to subscribe via your favourite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. We appreciate your support. And if you have a topic you want us to cover, feel free to reach out. Catch you next time.